Our story takes place in San Francisco during summer 1972. It's a beautiful day, the sun is high in the sky, and a man decides to get a trim in a barber shop for the weekend. The barber looks at him, and he refuses, just like that. But why? Is the barber closing? No. He refused because the man was gay. This man was Harvey Milk. And this was just one moment in a lifetime of discrimination he and millions of others faced every single day. So let me tell you the story of one man who changed history, not with violence but with hope. This is the story of Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was born in 1930 in a quiet New York town. Harvey Milk's early years seemed, at first glance, like those of any other boy. His family ran a small department store called Milk's, and on the surface, his life appeared ordinary. But even as a child, Harvey knew he was different. He felt it in the way he saw the world, in the feelings he kept locked away. By the time he was a teenager, Harvey understood the truth about himself. He was gay. But in the late 1940s, in a conservative Jewish household, that truth was something he could never say out loud. And as Harvey used to say,
I was born of heterosexual parents in a fiercely heterosexual society, a society that puts down homosexuality.
It wasn't just frowned upon, it was dangerous. So, like so many others of his time, he hid it. He had relationships with other boys in high school, but always in secret, shrouded in fear of what might happen if anyone found out. Imagine carrying that weight. Knowing who you are, but being forced to pretend otherwise. That was Harvey's reality. After high school, he followed a path that was expected of him. He joined the U.S. Navy in the early 1950s, hoping to serve his country, but also, in a way, to fit into the world as it was. But in the rigid order of military life, he had to suppress who he truly was. The military wasn't just unwelcoming. It actively hunted down and expelled suspected gay service members. Harvey had to be more careful than ever. Years later, he would joke that he left the Navy in 1955 because he kissed a sailor. It was a humorous anecdote, but behind the joke lay a painful reality. Being himself was still out of reach. After leaving the service, Harvey tried to play by society's rules. He dabbled in teaching, then finance, even working on Wall Street. On paper, he was successful, but deep down, something was missing. The more he built a conventional life, the more he felt like a stranger in his own skin. How could you truly thrive when you had to hide the most important part of who you are? So, in the late 1960s, Harvey had enough to hide who he was, and he did something bold. He packed up his life and moved to San Francisco. At the time, The city was a beacon of hope, a gathering place for those who didn't fit in anywhere else. The LGBTQ+ community was growing, carving out space in the Castro district. But even in this so-called progressive haven, discrimination was everywhere. People were being fired from jobs, kicked out of homes, and harassed by the police, simply for existing. It was a painful contradiction. A city that prided itself on progress, but still treated an entire community as second-class citizens. But Harvey wasn't the kind of man to accept that. He opened a small camera shop in the heart of the Castro, and it quickly became more than just a business. It became a meeting place, a safe space, a hub for a movement that was gaining momentum. The quiet man who had once hidden in the shadows was now stepping into the light. He found his voice, and once he started speaking, he never stopped. He stood up against police brutality. He fought for fair housing. He became the person the community needed, a leader, a fighter, an advocate when so many were afraid to speak. And as the movement grew, so did Harvey's determination. He realized that true change couldn't just happen on the streets.
Did you see that you thought was obscene?
Well, I see naked men walking around, naked women walking around, which doesn't bother me as far as my personal standards of nudity or what, but it's not proper. Many people do not approve of outward displays of sexuality, be it heterosexuality or homosexuality. And this is a point I stand firm on, and I think the gay community themselves will find hard to refute the statements I'm making now. And this is a problem. We wouldn't allow it for any other parade in San Francisco, and it should not be allowed for the gay parade.
It had to happen from within the system. So he made a decision that would change history. Harvey Milk ran for office. And just like that, the man who had spent years trying to fit into a world that wouldn't accept him became the very voice that would fight for the acceptance of an entire community. Harvey Milk's journey to becoming a trailblazing advocate for the queer community wasn't easy. His political career began with multiple setbacks. He ran for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors 3 times and lost each time. But instead of giving up, he grew stronger with every defeat. His campaigns weren't just about him. They became a movement for every gay, lesbian, and transgender person who had ever been silenced, rejected, or erased. With each election, he gained more supporters, more recognition, and more momentum. Finally, in 1977, his persistence paid off. Harvey Milk won a seat on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, becoming the first openly gay elected officials in California. His victory was historic, but it was only the beginning. Now he had to prove that his success wasn't just symbolic, it had to lead to real change.
The reason for all this merriment and gaiety, if you pardon the pun, is the man standing to my right, the first gay supervisor elected in San Francisco. His name is Harvey Milk. First of all, congratulations, and I've never seen anything like this, Harvey.
Oh, it's all over the city tonight.
What does this mean, your election, your activity now on the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco? Does that mean, as many states are concerned, that maybe the gays are taking over San Francisco? Are you going to be a supervisor for all the people?
I have to be. That's what I was elected for. I have to be there to open up for the dialogue, for the sensitivities of all people, for all the problems. The problems that affect this city affect all of us.
His first major battle came in 1978 with Proposition 6, also known as the Briggs Initiative. This proposed law, introduced by conservative state senator John Briggs, sought to ban gay and lesbian teachers from working in California's public schools. Even more chillingly, it would have also allowed schools to fire anyone who even supported equal rights for the queer community. It was a blatant attempt to push sexual minorities further into the shadows, and it gained alarming traction. Polls initially showed that the majority of Californians supported the proposition, and it seemed likely to pass. Harvey knew this fight wasn't just about jobs, it was about dignity, equality, and survival. He threw himself into the campaign against Proposition 6 with everything he had. He gave impassioned speeches across the state, reminding people that queer educators were just as capable, hard-working, and deserving as anyone else. He urged people to see past the fear and misinformation being spread by Briggs and his supporters. But Harvey also understood the power of coalition building. He didn't just rely on the LGBTQ+ community to defeat Proposition 6. He reached out to labor unions, religious leaders, civil rights activists, and even conservative figures who believed in fairness. His efforts paid off when political personalities like Ronald Reagan publicly opposed the proposition, calling it unnecessary and unfair. Governor Jerry Brown and President Jimmy Carter also voiced their opposition, further shifting public opinion.
President Carter spent less than an hour at this downtown Sacramento rally. As the president left the podium, Jerry Brown whispered to him briefly, and he came back for one more word of advice for voters.
And Ford and Reagan have already come out against it, so I think it's perfectly safe.
I also want to ask everybody to vote against Proposition 6.
As the election approached, the tide began to turn. The more people heard Harvey's message, the more they understood that Proposition 6 was rooted in discrimination, not in protecting children. Support for the initiative crumbled. On November 7, 1978, Proposition 6 was defeated by a landslide. More than 58% of California voters rejected it. It was a monumental victory for queer rights, and a testament to Harvey Milk's ability to inspire change.
To the gay community all over this state, my message to you is, so far a lot of people joined us and rejected Proposition 6, and now we owe them something. We owe them to continue the education campaign that took place. We must destroy the myths once and for all, shatter them. We must continue to speak out, and most importantly, every gay person must come out. As difficult as it is, you must tell your immediate family, you must tell your relatives, you must tell your friends if indeed they are your friends, you must tell your neighbors, you must tell the people you work with, you must tell the people in the stores you shop in. And once they realize that we are indeed their children and we are indeed everywhere, every myth, every lie, every innuendo will be destroyed once and for all. And once you do, you will feel so much better.
But of course, not everyone was thrilled about Harvey's success. He knew deep down that he could become a target for those who opposed him. And what everyone feared to happen, happened.
Code 3, room 200. I'm in the mayor's office. 301, 1023 for one moment. We're trying to ascertain what is happening. Room 237, please, quick.
An ambulance over here.
Get an ambulance.
A unit over here.
Get another ambulance. Yeah, where are the victims going?
I don't know if they're going anywhere. They're supposed to, Harvey Milk and the mayor are supposed to be DOA.
As president of the board, as president of the Board of Supervisors, it's my duty to make this announcement. Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed. The suspect is Supervisor Dan White.
Is he in custody?
He's not at this time. Thank you very much. No question.
Attention all units, suspect named Dan White, white male adult, 32 years, 6 feet, 185 pounds, wearing a 3-piece brown suit, considered armed and dangerous. Attention all units, the former supervisor Dan White is now in custody. Repeating, former supervisor Dan White is now in custody. KMA 438 clear.
On November 27th, 1978, everything changed. Dan White, a former city supervisor with a grudge, walked into San Francisco City Hall. He wasn't there for politics. He wasn't there to talk. He was there to kill. First, he found Mayor George Moscone. A gunshot. Another. The mayor was gone. Then, he went after Harvey Milk. Harvey, an activist, a fighter, a symbol of hope for all the queer community, was gunned down in cold blood. The city stood still. The news spread like wildfire. But if Dan White thought that killing Harvey would silence him, he was dead wrong, because what happened next was more powerful than the bullets that took his life. That night, San Francisco didn't rage, it didn't riot, it mourned. Tens of thousands of people flooded the streets, their hands gripping candles, their faces streaked with tears. A silent march. A city grieving as one. Harvey's death didn't end a movement. It ignited one. His murder forced a nation to listen, to wake up, to see the fight for LGBTQ rights like never before. More people stood up. More voices joined in. More change began to happen. And today, Harvey Milk's name isn't just a memory, it's a legacy. It's in the streets we walk, the schools that bear his name, the history books that tell his story, and his words still echo through time.
The anger and the frustrations that some of us feel is because we are misunderstood, and friends can't feel the anger and frustration. They can sense it in us, but they can't feel it. Because a friend has never gone through what is known as coming out. I will never forget what it was like coming out and having nobody to look up toward. I remember the lack of hope. And our friends can't fulfill it. I can't forget the looks on faces of people who've lost hope. Be they gay, be they seniors, be they blacks looking for an almost impossible job, be they Latins trying to explain their problems and aspirations in a tongue that's foreign to them. I personally will never forget that people are more important than buildings. I use the word I because I'm proud. I stand here tonight in front of my gay sisters, brothers, and friends because I'm proud of you. I think it's time that we have many legislators who are gay and proud of that fact and do not have to remain in the closet. I think that a gay person up front will not walk away from a responsibility and be afraid of being tossed out of office. After Dade County, I walked among the angry and the frustrated night after night, and I looked at their faces. And in San Francisco, 3 days before Gay Pride Day, a person was killed just because he was gay. And that night, I walked among the sad and the frustrated at City Hall in San Francisco, and later that night as they lit candles on Castro Street and stood in silence, reaching out for some symbolic thing that would give them hope. These were strong people, whose faces I knew from the shop, the streets, meetings, and people who I never saw before, but I knew. They were strong. But even they needed hope. And the young gay people who are coming out and hear Anita Bryant on television and her story, the only thing they have to look forward to is hope. And you have to give them hope. Hope for a better world, hope for a better tomorrow, hope for a better place to come to if the pressures at home are too great, hope that all will be all right. Without hope, not only gays, but the blacks, the seniors, the handicapped, the us's will give up. And if you help elect to the Central Committee and other offices more gay people, that gives a green light to all who feel disenfranchised, a green light to move forward. It means hope to a nation that has given up, because if a gay person makes it, the doors are open to everyone. So, if there is a message I have to give, it is that I've found one overriding thing about my personal election. It's the fact that if a gay person can be elected, it's a green light. And you have to give people hope.
And hope? Hope is unstoppable.